Hey y'all, I'm Kendrick Shope. Now I know what you might be thinking. Oh great, here comes another person telling me a ton of skill sets that I need to run a successful business. But not so quick. I'm gonna share with you today a no BS, true way to make money in your business. You all are in for a treat today because I have the one, the only, Dr. Kendall Ritz. Am I saying that right, Kendall?
Yep.
Okay, just making sure because, you know, I can southern up a name in a heartbeat. The one, the only Dr. Kendall Ritz here with you. And so Kendall just, so you know, is a real doctor. She's not like me. Like she doesn't play one on TV, or she doesn't like have the PDR at her beck and call so she can diagnose. She's a real doctor. She's been through medical school. And so Kendall and I have known each other for a while. She's a sales school grad, and I have fallen in love with Kendall's work and really her journey. Kendall's story is something that you're just going to want to listen to because it talks about making some money and not exactly being in alignment with where you want to be, and how she overcame that. And there's just so much goodness in here today. I am honored to get started. So Kendall, first things first, where are you located?
So my practice is in Greenville, Delaware, which is essentially in Wilmington, on the East Coast.
Great. Fantastic. What's the weather like on the East Coast today?
Little rainy today. We're looking forward to summer starting next week, it looks like, but still getting some spring showers here.
Yay. And if you're wondering where in the world is Kendrick today, I'm in corporate housing. So this is the first Sell Like a Woman, the podcast we've done from corporate housing. Usually we do them from my office. And you know, as we've been looking at homes, I've been thinking about like this new opportunity to just sort of make this new Sell Like a Woman space. So I'm super excited when we find a home to have you into my new office, into the new Sell Like a Woman headquarters. But for now, it is Simpsonville, South Carolina, in this beautiful corporate housing apartment with a picture of, I don't know what that is behind us. But anyway, so we are going to jump in. Kendall, tell people in a nutshell what you do. So obviously I've said she's a real life doctor. Tell people what you do.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's really evolved over time. And so essentially what it boils down to is I see my mission as supporting women in looking at all the pieces of their lives that are impacting their health, and support them in really creating a health transformation for themselves.
What's that mean? So health transformation. So tell me does that mean like I'm going to not have more migraine headaches, or what does health transformation mean?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of women come to me for a lot of different complaints, whether it's a symptom or a diagnosis like migraines. And so health transformation is really about going from where you are with your health to where you want to be with your health.
I love that.
And so for most women, that does involve resolving symptoms or improving a diagnosis, something along those lines. But that's essentially what it boils down to.
Great. And so when you go from where you are to where you want to be, what are the common things that you hear women where they want to be? Like, what's the promised land for them? Yeah.
So it usually involves any of the following: improved energy. I mean, I by far the number one complaint I hear from women is I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I feel overwhelmed, I feel frazzled. And so improved energy is something that I see in virtually all the women that I work with as an intended outcome or a desired outcome. Usually there's something along weight, either weight loss or, body composition just isn't where I want it to be.
Yeah.
There can be, very commonly, women want improved mood. They might be feeling kind of low level anxiety, or even just kind of dull and flat, and not necessarily depressed in terms of a formal diagnosis, but they're not enjoying their day to day. And so they want to feel good in their daily life.
Yeah. Sorry, Prada's like not used to this. Like, what's going on here? So I want to talk a little bit about that. So people who are not maybe diagnosed or maybe not clinically depressed, but not enjoying their lives. So I find that a lot of women I run into this with a lot of women as we talk about their business, right? Like they just have this kind of this overall sense of nothing's working. It's not going right. It just, it doesn't feel right. I'm not happy is what that boils down to, or what it sounds to me like it does. And certainly I've been there in my life, but tell me the difference between, if you can, I don't even know if you can do this. Can you tell me the difference? Are you allowed to legally say this is the difference between sort of being depressed and just unhappy? What are the differences in symptoms?
Yeah. So, I mean, a formal diagnosis of depression, there are certain DSM 4 or 5 criteria that you meet. But I'll tell you, it's largely a subjective diagnosis in a lot of cases. And I can't tell you the number of women I've seen who tell me, you know, they're just not feeling well, something's off. They have a battery of lab testing done. Their doctor tells them everything's fine and offers an antidepressant.
Yeah.
It is such a common kind of go-to. And I think part of that is there's a lot more that goes into mood and sense of well-being beyond what the sort of conventional medical community is really designed to address for women. And that's kind of where I see my role, because there are so many factors that go into how you feel, your mood, your kind of sense or level of happiness and enjoyment in your day-to-day life. That, you know, a prescription medication isn't necessarily going to be the answer for a lot of women.
I love this. And so, y'all, I want to encourage you to stick around because Kendall's got something at the end called the 5-Day Pleasure Challenge that we're going to introduce you to. And she was generous enough to let me sort of see the back end of this as she was filming it and as she was creating it. And it's amazing and it's free. So who doesn't want more pleasure in their life? And if you don't, then seriously, like you might need to go get on an antidepressant if you don't want more pleasure. Of course we want more pleasure. And so stick around because we're going to talk about that 5-Day Pleasure Challenge in just a minute. But Kendall, I think that, you know, I read a book this year, and I think you and I probably talked about it, by Dr. Louise Brisbane. And she talks about the differences in the female brain versus the male brain. And I use this in some of the sales research about what motivates women to sell versus the way men sell. But it's interesting to me because she shared that women's brains are constantly changing, you know, depending on what week it is, what's going on hormonally, that our brains are constantly shifting, and the male brain is not. Did I understand that correctly? Is that, first of all, let me make sure I didn't butcher some sort of scientific research.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting when you get into what you were alluding to with like the hormonal changes in our cycle as women. There's actually a lot of capacity that allots us in terms of being able to create, and it can be fantastic if you're like an entrepreneur or someone who's creating a business. But it's not necessarily something that most women know about or have been taught about. I'd say in business, and I love that your program is Sell Like a Woman, because in business, I think so many women have tried to fit into the model of men and how they do things. And you're right, we're wired differently than men.
Yeah, I think that this was so eye-opening is not the right word. It was so freeing for me to hear that, you know what, you might not be certifiably crazy. It could just be, I mean, and of course we all know, like, yeah, okay, you feel differently at different times and, you know, different things are going on. But no, actually, the chemistry in your brain, or maybe it's not the chemistry, but what's going on in your brain is actually changing. So, you know, I say to Hallianna sometimes, you know, all you have to do is get up and do your best. And some days, like today, she's sick. And so today, doing her best isn't even getting out of bed at the moment because she doesn't feel like it. You know, doing your best is lying there, taking care of yourself. But I think that as women, we feel like we have to be this straight and narrow all the time and do things the way men do them. And I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I feel like it's just empowering to know that actually you may have been a royal raving bitch yesterday, and I'm not making an excuse for that. Never treat anybody like a royal raving bitch, but it also you could have had a lot going on in your brain and chemistry and stuff changing. And I don't know, maybe it gave me permission to be a royal raving bitch, but it was interesting to me.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because for women, it's a capacity. It's actually a positive that we haven't necessarily been taught is a positive.
Yes. I love your spin on this. So yeah, it's a positive. Say more about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So basically, you know, on a very different level than men, we can use our physiology to our benefit, in terms of, you know, our capacity to tune into our inner selves more at certain times of the month, and then at other times of the month to be more kind of outward focused. But, you know, when we try to kind of fit into the mold of every day is the same, just kind of, you know, push through, which is a lot more linear, a lot more masculine, a lot of women find themselves feeling burnt out when they try to follow that model and feel like something's wrong with them, but it's actually they're just not kind of tuning into our own inherent capacity as women and how, you know, we can uniquely achieve success for ourselves.
Yeah. So y'all see why I wanted to have Dr. Kendall on here. I mean, like her message is so it's the smarts, it's the intelligence behind what I talk about. And so, you know, Kendall, I wonder if how much of that burnout, of that exhaustion, of those stereotypical things that a lot of women, you know, low energy, maybe wanting to lose a little weight or increase mood, how much of that is related to us trying to fit into that linear world and it just not working for us, or in that linear way? How much of it would you say, percentage-wise, if you had to guess?
If I had to guess, I'd say at least 75% or more.
Yeah.
And I love that you had mentioned, and I know we'll talk about the pleasure piece, but that definitely plays into this, because a lot of it ultimately boils down to our stress system. Yeah. And so, you know, when we're approaching, let's say, business from a very masculine perspective and kind of trying to force ourselves into a square hole when we're a round peg, that creates a lot of stress in our physiology, which works against us on many different levels, and certainly in terms of its impact on physical health and well-being. And so part of the role that I see for enjoyment and pleasure to kind of counteract that is how it impacts that stress physiology.
I love that. It's so interesting. So, you know, I think that it's empowering to hear that, you know, a lot of this is a shift in the way in which you live your life, but A, there's nothing wrong with you. B, you can thrive, you know, just because we were taught, you know, just because this is the game plan we've been given. It's the same thing I say for sales, right? This is the game plan you've been given, and there's nothing wrong with the game plan, and it works. And in the absence of nothing, it's a really good, no other alternative. It's a really good plan to follow. And the reason that it's male-based is because that's who entered the workforce first, you know? Mm-hmm. But now we have choice, you know, now we have and ways in which to live our lives. And so, you know, the plan that we have when we entered the workforce may have been to do that linear thing and to do the step-by-step plan that a man would do, because that's who taught us. And essentially it gets passed down through oral history or through whatever, oral history, through, you know, this is how you succeed. But I think that it's fascinating now to say, you know what, there's another way. And I love how many women are beginning to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And making it okay. You know,
making it okay. Yeah.
Feeling like, oh, I have permission to do things in a way that really work for me. And again, not to kind of knock or poo-poo the, you know, the masculine, because there's absolutely, like you said, benefit to having structure and, you know, some elements of that really are required for success.
Yeah.
But not at the expense of our health, not at the expense of, you know, kind of tweaking things in a way that work for us as individuals and as women.
So, I mean, it sounds to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't really even know necessarily what this means. I've learned this from Mulan, watching with Helena. That's the truth. It sounds to me like it's this yin and yang thing. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's a balance. It always is. Yeah.
Why is I love medicine, by the way. It's just for anybody who thinks I'm about to get off on a tangent. I love it. I lived there for a long time. You know, I sold drugs, the legal kind. But why do we miss this in the American medical system?
It's a great question. And having been kind of inside and having gone through the system, I definitely had the opportunity to have a lot of insight about how the current medical system does work for people. Because you're right, there are absolutely miraculous things that happen within the conventional medical system, and where it maybe falls short. And I think there are several elements that I think could be changed that would help people have better outcomes. But part of it is, it's a very mechanical system, and it's looking at things from a very kind of black and white perspective without a lot of room for gray. So people who fall into these gray categories, maybe who have, like the burnout, like you were describing, there's not necessarily a neat, tidy diagnostic box that they fit into with a neat, tidy prescription medication or something that is designed to kind of meet their needs. And so there aren't a lot of tools available to support that kind of person who falls outside sort of the neat, tidy diagnosis box.
It's a shame. It's I was reading, y'all know I'm a history nerd, but I was reading a book about, y'all could probably fill in the blank, about the Kennedys. And in one of the books, and I guess this is accurate, but it talked about a lot of depression wasn't even something that, let's see, John F. Kennedy was president in 1964. So in the 60s, maybe the late 50s, depression wasn't even something that women talked about, that they even, I read, I'm pretty sure it was in a Kennedy book that they even tried lobotomies on people who were depressed. And I guess that's accurate. I guess the person knew what they were talking about, but it's fascinating to me that how we've tried to force some of these things into a box where they don't fit,
Mm-hmm.
So Kendall, I want everybody to understand, why are you the person that I wanted to have on here to really talk about, we're talking about science and medicine, but really ultimately we're going to end up talking about pleasure. And so you bring sort of like the trifecta, if you will, to women's health. So trifecta is my word, not Kendall's word. She's not like a demigod. I'm saying she brings the trifecta, but tell people what I mean by that.
Yeah. So I have my conventional medical background in training, medical school, and I did a residency in, it was a double residency in pediatrics and internal medicine, which is essentially, kids and adults. And that gave me certainly exposure and training and opportunity to experience kind of the traditional medical system. And throughout that, I always knew I was interested in a more holistic approach to health and wellness. So actually during my residency, I pursued training in something called functional medicine, which is, it's defined as a systems-based biology. So it really seeks to tie systems of the body together, as opposed to looking at, well, if you have a heart problem, go see the heart specialist. And if you have a neurologic problem, go see the neurologist. It really seeks to tie together the systems of the body, which really are interrelated. I mean, our body is one body, and what's going on in the gut impacts what's going on in the brain, and et cetera, et cetera. So I really resonated with that approach in terms of looking for more root causes and trying to sort of address problems at a deeper physiologic level. And that was fantastic, and I loved it. I still love it. But what I realized is, even with that approach, even with that greater depth, there are still elements of a woman's life, a person's life, that are impacting their health beyond just what we think of as kind of the health factors, like what are you eating and how much are you exercising and how much are you sleeping. And so I really pursued training in more coaching, transformational coaching, to support women in addressing some of these other pieces, because I would see women come in and it was very clear to me that, their toxic relationship with their mother was the main factor impacting their health, because it was such a source of chronic, ongoing, high stress. And it wasn't going to be addressed by changing their foods. It wasn't going to be addressed fully by, getting them moving more. And I don't mean to overstep and say that there's not a role for like a therapist or something like that, because there absolutely are. But if we're not making the connections and helping people make the connections between, these aspects of themselves and their lives that are impacting their health, I think we're not making progress as quickly as we could be.
I love that. And that's why she's got the trifecta. I mean, that's why, she's got the actual medical disease, and then we've got functional medicine, and then we have it's almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs of medicine, right? We got your basic, like, what's wrong, what's the anatomy of what's going on, and then the function of how does that affect our whole body, our body as a whole. And then we've got this more esoteric, which is is there an underlying cause or symptom or thing going on in your life that affects all of this, that may be causing this stuff? Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dr. Kendall's the kind of doctor I want to go to, right? I mean, she's not just going to slap a script on you, but she can if she needs to. But she's not just going to slap a script on you to say, yeah, you're depressed because I don't care why, because you're depressed. You meet all these boxes. No disrespect to the medical community, so we're going to put you on antidepressant. No disrespect to antidepressants at all. I'm just saying, I love that. That's why this is the trifecta. So, Dr. Kendall, last year you shifted your business a little bit. So you see patients. You have a very thriving, successful business, and it's funny. It's a funny story. I was trying to get in touch with Dr. Kendall about something, and she's gone. Just gone. So what the heck? I mean, I didn't have an appointment with her or anything. It was just this really, it was just a one-off thing. Like, what the heck? Where is she? And I got to tell y'all, I got to tell this story, and then I want you to speak to the nuts and bolts of it. She came back and she's like, yeah, you know what? And she's got kids, by the way. She's got a spouse. So none of this, oh, well, she doesn't have kids. I couldn't do that. Nope. Ain't nobody got time for that. It's just not true. She's like, yeah, everything, I'm going to put words in your mouth, but everything was just off. It just wasn't right. I wasn't having fun. It wasn't pleasurable. Yeah, I had customers, loved my customers, but something was off. So I went to Mexico. I took some time away and I figured it out. Is that about that's how I remember it. Is that about how it happened?
Yeah, that's about how it happened. And it's so funny because it really is, I experienced firsthand when, even though things kind of from the outside look like everything's great and everything's fine and, it's good, but if something's off and you don't feel like things are in alignment with whatever it is that really makes you tick, it has an impact on you. Yeah. And it can really, over time, sort of chip away, and that can lead to decreased energy and all these other symptoms that then seem like a health problem, and it is a health problem, but the health is being impacted by more this, I think of it as sort of like the mind body, and you want to get those two in alignment with one another.
Yeah. It's funny. And I've shared this with Dr. Kendall before, but for a long time, I didn't know that there was a mind body thing. Like, I don't think I felt below the neck much of anything unless I was sick or something. It was all here. I was trying to make life work. This is long before I started my business, trying to make life work in my head. And what a shame. You're missing out on such great guidance when you listen from the neck below. But I love this story because I don't know if it was near as dramatic as I make it sound, but I mean, Kendall went to Mexico. She she practiced what she preaches. She said, okay, we're going to press pause here. Mm-hmm. And we're going to reconnect to what's real, what's right, what's authentic. And she came back with this clarity. I was like, what pill have you taken and where can I get some? Like, I want a pill because I love pills. Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do the work. Just give me the pill, right? So I love that Child and Family Services is going to come get me because I've talked about stealing drugs and now I'm talking about loving pills. And yeah, I love that you just came back with this level of clarity that it's difficult to put words around, but you became really clear about what needed to shift in your business. So talk to us. What changed in your business after that?
Yeah, so it was definitely a process, but it really boiled down to, number one, I have to be doing work that I feel really excited about, that I feel passionate about, that is worth me kind of putting my, time, energy, and focus on. And like you said, it wasn't that I didn't love the women I was working with, or I didn't feel I was helping people, but there was just something that was missing. And so because of that, I didn't feel as fulfilled as I could have. And so I started to receive more clarity around, the importance of this mind body and the enjoyment pleasure factor. And so over time, I found a way to kind of integrate those pieces into the work I do with women. So it's not just about the functional medicine physiology piece, which I think is great and important and still part of what I do. But I felt it just got to the point where I felt like if I wasn't offering a program where women could really have the time, space, and attention to address these other pieces of the puzzle that were also impacting their health and well-being, I was doing them a disservice. And it didn't feel right to do it the old way anymore.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a big shift.
Thank you for sharing that. So what's this got to do with selling like a woman? I mean, we've clearly established that, men and women are different. And it's funny, I say this all the time, like, look at us, we're different. But then we're so different on the inside, and we're so different in our paths to success, and we're so different in every single way, and we don't talk about it enough. And I love that we're different. I love that. I don't think saying you're different is a bad thing. I think it's a fan-freaking-tastic thing. But what's this got to do with sounding like a woman? Well, a couple of things. Number one, I wanted you to see how, selfishly, I wanted you to see some of the mechanics behind, or the physiology behind, the differences in men and women. We get a lot of flack about Kendrick Shope is the most old-fashioned salesperson I've ever heard of. Like, she sets women back 20 years talking about that they need to, or 30 years or 40 years or 100 years, talking about that they need to sell differently than men. We get mail like this. There's a great one on YouTube on Grant Cardone's channel about me. But I wanted you to hear some of the evidence, because just because I say so doesn't make it right. I wanted you to hear the physiological evidence, and that people a lot smarter than me see this to be true in other areas of their world. Number two, the reason I wanted to have her here is because I want you to know that when you're selling something and it's just not quite right, that you don't have to throw the whole thing out. You can pause, you can go, you can listen to that women's intuition, which is a real thing. You can shut the world out. I used to say all the time when Helena would cry, all the time as a baby, I'd be like, I'm going to get on a slow boat to China and I'll be back when she's 8. I don't know why China, and I don't know why a slow boat. I mean, but that's what, and so Kendall kind of did that, except she was smarter than me and went to Mexico and sort of, zoned out. So I want to give you permission to do that, regardless of how successful you are. Permission granted to figure it out. Things change. And what happens when you figure things out, and when you do that, when you honor that, is you create something that is mind freaking blowing amazing, which leads us to the 5-Day Pleasure Challenge. And the third reason I wanted Dr. Kendall to be here, because women, we give and we give and we give, and we deplete and we deplete and we deplete. And no matter how good you are at self-care, no matter how good you are at going to yoga, you are a nurturer. I know this about you. That's who we are. And so when I found out Dr. Kendall had gone away to Mexico and come back and reinvented her business and included pleasure, I was like, get me some of that. So tell us about the 5-Day Pleasure Challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that was one of the kind of points of clarity that I received when I was away, was this element of enjoyment and pleasure being such a common missing piece for women. When I thought about, the women in my life and the patients that I work with, the women that I work with, it just was so glaringly obvious that enjoyment and pleasure is such a common missing piece. And it's interesting because a lot of women, when they hear the word pleasure, they get triggered. Like, oh my gosh, somehow that is uncomfortable. There's a lot of kind of baggage to that word, so to speak. And I'd say our cultural view tends to be that pleasure is, for special occasions, for vacation, maybe a holiday, or, weekends. And we don't necessarily think about the importance of bringing it into our day-to-day lives. And I don't mean that you have to, jaunt off to Mexico or even go to a local spa and have, a full spa day or something like that. It can be so simple, not require a lot of time, and not require any or much money at all. And that was really the impetus behind the 5-Day Pleasure Challenge. How do we bring this to women and allow them to receive the benefit of it without having to invest a lot of time, money, energy, that kind of thing? And so that was kind of the focus or the premise behind the 5-Day Pleasure Challenge. So really it's about simple ways, convenient but effective ways to bring pleasure and enjoyment into your day-to-day and start to notice what that translates to for you in terms of how you feel, in terms of your energy level, in terms of your mood, in terms of your ability to feel like you can get through the day without, needing a 3 p.m. coffee or nap or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And again, it's not that anything that someone finds to support themselves is wrong or bad, but it's really interesting to see how much impact you can experience and how much benefit you can experience when you are bringing in enjoyment and pleasure on a daily basis, as opposed to reserving it for the weekend or a holiday, that kind of thing.
I love this. When I heard about it, and I've said I love this like 22 times so far, but when Kendall told me about it, I just thought, this is it. I can remember being 18 years old and talking about life's too short. Life's too short for this. Life's too short for that. Life's too short to go through it miserable. I mean, what's the point if we don't love it, if we don't have fun? And the cool thing about this is it's like the everyday woman's pleasure challenge, right? It's not the rich, the rich, the super well-off woman who's going to go to the spa every day, and you reference this, and get thousands of dollars worth of procedures done. No, and it's the everyday woman. It's the woman, raising kids and running back and forth to soccer practice and is lucky to have clean underwear on. It's her pleasure challenge, which I love that. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I want to invite our entire community to take the pleasure challenge with me, because God knows I could use some more pleasure in my life. So I want to invite you to take Kendall's 5-Day Pleasure Challenge with me. The way to get started is head on over to the Authentic Selling community. Well, actually, no, that's not right. I'm used to saying that. Kendall, we can take the Pleasure Challenge directly through you, right? Let me back up. Let me stop driving the bus and get some help. Kendall, how do we take the 5-Day Pleasure Challenge?
Yes, I love it. So you can go to my website, which is kendallritzmd.com, and you'll see the invitation there, and you just sign up right there and you will start to receive all the information. You'll receive videos, you'll receive instructional guides, and content that'll support and guide you through it. But it's kendallritzmd.com.
Great. So we'll add it to the link below. So Dr. Kendall, this is going to go live on, let's see, this is going to go live on Rise Up. This is going to go live on the 19th of June. That's a Monday, right? So it'll go live on the 20th of June. So what I would like for everybody to do is, and we'll have this in there, sign up for the Pleasure Challenge on the 20th. And if we sign up, Kendall, then it'll start on the 20th or the 21st. When's our first pleasure activity?
Yeah, it'll start the day after you sign up is day one.
Great.
You get kind of introductory material that first day and kind of get set up, and then you're ready to go.
Awesome. So Dr. Kendall, would you come in the Authentic Selling community as we do this? And let's whatever the challenge is for Wednesday the 21st, maybe we could tag you and ask you about it and just get this whole pleasure challenge thing going on.
I would love that.
Great. Great. I know that, I mean, women, men, kids, canines, my dog's over here. Everything's easier when you're having more fun. Everything, you make more money when you are having more fun. You get to spend more time with the things or people that matter to you when you're having more fun. You create memories that last, longer when you're having more fun. And as much as I love work and as much as I believe in the difference that selling makes in your life and your business, I know that I have failed in this area. And I'm so focused on it. With the move, it sort of like was clear energy and a shift in energy, and got up and went to a bar class yesterday. I can hardly walk, but it was amazing. Nicest people ever. And so I think that, I want to get back to some of the things that I know allowed me to create this successful business, like having some flipping fun in my life. Mm-hmm. And so Authentic Selling Community, I want to invite you to take this with us. If you sign up on Kendall's website, and you can come straight to the Authentic Selling Community on Facebook, and we'll have the link so you can register through Kendall's website. And then let's do it. Let's have a conversation about, I really sucked at doing this challenge, or whatever. Let's do it together, because I thoroughly believe a passionate woman can change the world. A happy woman can also change the world, right?
Absolutely. And I love what you said earlier. It's like, if I'm not having fun, what's the point of all this? What's the point of working? What's the point of my business? What's it for?
Yeah.
And there has to be some level of enjoyment and fun at the end of the day. Yeah.
It does. And we've done this audit, Kendall, kind of, I've done this audit. I drove part of the way across the country, and we've had some staff changes because people have gone on to bigger and better things. And anytime you do that, you sort of have to look at the procedures to hand off and new procedures, and I realized that there's no need. There's no need for the amount of work that we're putting in. I mean, there's no time for fun. And so I'm excited to take this challenge. I'm excited for you all to take it in your life and your business, because I've seen this with woman after woman. Susan Hyatt talked about this, the kickoff of the year. If you have more fun, you'll make more money. And so, all right, I'm going to accept that challenge. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's make some money. Let's change the world.
Awesome.
That's not too much to ask, is it?
I love it. I love it, Kendrick. Thank you. I think it's really, really exciting. And I'm excited to see what women notice and experience through taking part in this.
Yeah, I am too. Dr. Kendall, it's a pleasure to have you here. I could literally talk to her all day long because she's so flipping smart, but also want to be respectful of your time and respectful of our viewers' time. So thank you all so much for tuning in to Sell Like a Woman, the podcast. Head on over to Kendall's website, which will be linked here below, or the Authentic Selling Community. Opt into Kendall's 5-Day Pleasure Challenge, and let's see what a community of women focused on fun and pleasure. Let's see how we can shake some things up. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kendall. It's my total pleasure. I believe in you. I believe in your business. If a hick from the hills of Tennessee can do this, get your butt up, get going. You can do it.